What if the simple act of showering could silently put your life at risk? Stay tuned to find out why. Few people realize that a simple shower can turn into a deadly risk. But that's exactly what happened to John Miller, a 74-year-old man who was active, lucid, and seemingly healthy. He always had the habit of waking up early, taking a hot shower, and starting his day with a cup of coffee. That morning, everything seemed normal until he was found collapsed on the bathroom floor, lifeless, no signs of slipping, no head trauma, nothing to explain what happened. What seemed like an inexplicable fatality revealed something deeper, something many ignore until it's too late. There's a specific time of day when taking a shower can be extremely dangerous, especially for people over 60, a simple detail, but one that can mean the difference between life and death. And that's exactly what we need to talk about today. Shocked by John Miller's story? Comment, save below, and subscribe to uncover life-saving tips. The autopsy revealed that John Miller suffered a sudden cardiovascular collapse caused by thermal shock. This happens when there's a sudden change in body temperature, something common when stepping into a hot shower right after waking up. During sleep, blood circulation slows down, blood pressure is lower, and the body adapts to a cooler temperature. When hot water comes into contact with the skin, it causes a sudden dilation of blood vessels, which can lead to an abrupt drop in blood pressure and even cardiac arrest. This risk increases even further when the shower is taken on an empty stomach, without adequate hydration or after sleepless nights. What was supposed to be just the start of the day turns into a silent trigger for tragedy. This isn't just guesswork. It's proven by doctors, studies, and even by observations made by people like Shi Heng. Shi Heng, known for his intuitive health readings, made indirect warnings about circulation care and the body's most sensitive times. In various messages, he highlighted that the human body functions in natural cycles that respect energetic and organic rhythms. In the morning, according to him, the nervous system is still adjusting its activity, and the heart may be more susceptible to sudden stimuli. Although Shi Heng never directly said to avoid morning showers, his observations on the internal functioning of the body, the importance of thermal balance, and the care of daily habits reinforce what modern science confirms today. A hot shower upon waking, without preparation, can be an invisible risk. Another aggravating factor is the natural aging of the cardiovascular system. Over time, the arteries become less flexible and the heart has to work harder to maintain adequate blood flow. This means that sudden temperature changes, which were once easily tolerated, now represent an extra effort for the body, especially between 5 and 7 in the morning when the body is still adjusting to wakefulness. The risks increase considerably. It is in this interval that most heart attacks and silent strokes occur. And despite this, it is precisely at this time that many seniors maintain the habit of taking a shower, often due to an old routine or lack of information. What few people know is that a simple change of schedule, such as postponing the shower until after breakfast or the late morning, can drastically reduce the risks. Prevention in this case is in the details. John Miller's case is not isolated. Hospitals and doctors have reported similar situations in which the patient suffered a sudden illness in the bathroom without presenting serious pre-existing diseases. In many of these cases, the pattern repeats itself. Hot shower on an empty stomach right after waking up with little ventilation in the environment. Even if the floor is non-slip and the senior has balance, the water temperature and the timing of the shower are the main hidden triggers. It's as if the body, still slowed by the inertia of sleep, is forced to react to stimuli that are too intense. When this happens, the autonomic nervous system enters a state of extreme alert, trying to compensate for the sudden change. This overload, added to other factors such as dehydration or the use of certain medications, can lead to a fatal outcome in a matter of seconds. The scariest thing is that no one imagines that this will come from the simple act of taking a shower. The guidance of specialists is clear but rarely disseminated in an accessible way. The ideal is to allow the body to wake up completely before entering the shower. Getting out of bed slowly, stretching, hydrating with a glass of water, and waiting at least 30 to 40 minutes after waking up are simple actions that help stabilize circulation and prepare the body. In addition, starting the shower with lukewarm water and avoiding very hot temperatures can make all the difference. For those who feel very cold in the morning, wearing a bathrobe before entering the bathroom and slightly warming the environment can help with thermal adaptation. The idea is not to create fear around the shower, but to bring awareness to a moment that seems harmless. What's at stake is safety and longevity, and the more people know about this, the more lives can be preserved. The most common mistake is believing that only slips cause deaths in the bathroom. This is, in fact, a danger, but it is far from being the only one. Many seniors are instructed to install grab bars, non-slip mats, and shower chairs, which is great and necessary. However, rarely is there any talk about the ideal time for this shower to happen, or about the physiological effects of water temperature on the aging body. There's a kind of silence around this topic, as if it was something unimportant. But one only has to look at the statistics to realize that the number of sudden deaths in domestic environments, especially in the bathroom, is higher than one imagines. When you investigate deeply, you realize that in many of these cases, the combination of hot water and a vulnerable time was decisive. This is not scaremongering, but responsibility with information. Knowledge can save lives, even in the simplest routines. Shi Heng used to emphasize that the human body is a sensitive engine that works best when we follow the rhythms of nature. According to him, many health problems could be avoided if people learn to listen to the signals of their own body. Although his work is known for dealing with spiritual and intuitive themes, a large part of his messages addressed practical care for the body. He believed that health was the balance between the physical, the mental, and the emotional, and that simple daily habits had a fundamental role in this balance. When we look through this lens, we begin to understand that the shower, especially in certain conditions, is not just a moment of hygiene. It messes with the nervous system, with breathing, with blood pressure, and even with emotional stability. It's a moment that requires more attention than is normally given. Another important point is the role of the family in this care. Many seniors live alone or spend much of their time unaccompanied, and therefore, it is essential that children, grandchildren, or caregivers are attentive to daily habits that may pose risks. Asking about the morning routine, suggesting a safer time for the shower, or even preparing the environment with more thermal comfort are simple attitudes, but they make a huge difference. Small gestures, such as adjusting the water temperature, keeping the bathroom well ventilated, or reminding the senior to hydrate upon waking up, don't take time, but can be decisive. It's not about controlling, but about caring with sensitivity and empathy. Aging safely also means keeping an attentive eye on the invisible details of the routine, those that normally go unnoticed, but have a direct impact on health. The most curious thing is that this discussion rarely reaches those who need it most. Public health campaigns focus on nutrition, exercise, and control of chronic diseases, but almost never address the dangers of showering at critical times. Perhaps because it seems too simple to be treated seriously. However, it is precisely in the small choices of everyday life that the greatest risks are hidden. The shower is not just a mechanical act, it involves the whole body in a physiological response, from the increase in heart rate to the reaction of blood vessels to thermal change. Everything influences. For those with a history of low blood pressure, diabetes, heart problems, or who use continuous medication, these factors are even more delicate. Therefore, understanding and respecting the right time to take a shower is a way to protect the body from unnecessary overloads and ensure that this habit continues to be something beneficial and safe. There is also an important psychological aspect to this issue. Many elderly people see the morning shower as a way to maintain their autonomy and active routine, which is healthy from an emotional point of view. However, this autonomy needs to be accompanied by information and common sense. Adapting the shower time doesn't mean losing freedom, but making a conscious choice for well-being. In fact, By adopting new care practices, many report an improvement in disposition, mood, and quality of the day. This is because the body responds better when it is respected in its natural limits. Small changes, such as avoiding showering right after getting up, changing very hot water to lukewarm, and paying attention to signs such as dizziness, chills, or weakness, make all the difference. The secret is to observe your own body with attention and not ignore the signs it gives, especially in the morning. Shi Heng stated that the body, when well treated, is the most accurate instrument for perceiving imbalances, even before they become diseases. This view, which seems simple, is deeply aligned with what modern preventive medicine has been teaching. Prevention is more effective than cure, especially when we talk about health after 60. When we respect the natural cycles of the body and avoid aggressive stimuli at vulnerable times, we increase the chance of aging with quality. The shower can continue to be a pleasant and invigorating moment as long as it is done consciously. The water temperature, the chosen time, the state of the body upon waking, all this must be taken into account. It's not about creating fear, but about adopting a more attentive and respectful look at your own body. After all, what seems small today can be decisive tomorrow. Many health professionals reinforce that shower care should be present in routine guidance for the elderly, just like diet and medication. It is common to think that only those with a chronic disease are at risk, but the truth is that aging itself brings physiological changes that require attention. The heart responds more slowly, circulation tends to be more unstable, and the body's ability to regulate temperature decreases. Therefore, what for a young person may be just a passing scare, for someone over 65 can become an emergency. When the shower is done at the wrong time and with water at an inadequate temperature, the body goes into shock. Blood pressure can drop so quickly that there's not even time to ask for help, and often those around only realize when it's too late. The danger lies precisely in the routine that seems harmless. That's why attention to detail becomes an essential gesture of self-care. In recent years, clinical studies have been reinforcing this perception with concrete data. In countries with a more aged population, such as Japan and some regions of Europe, an increase has been observed in cases of syncope and circulatory collapse occurring during the shower, especially in the early hours of the morning. These data confirm that the problem is not isolated, nor the result of chance. It's a pattern. The combination of external cold, the body still in a state of rest, and hot water causes an impact that many organisms cannot withstand. Therefore, public health initiatives in these countries have started to include the recommendation of safer times for showers among the elderly. This is not a taboo or superstition, but an evidence-based strategy. And it is essential that this type of guidance also begins to circulate in Latin American countries, where the elderly population is growing rapidly. The responsibility lies not only with doctors or caregivers, but with everyone who lives with older people. Informing, guiding with affection, and encouraging good practices can avoid silent tragedies. Sometimes a sincere conversation over coffee, a tip during a family lunch, or a small adaptation to the routine is enough to protect those we love. The shower is a personal and intimate moment, but that doesn't mean it can't be guided with respect. Teaching that the best time to shower is when the body is already active, with stabilized circulation and a mind awake, is an act of care. This can be done without imposition, only with common sense and empathy. Those who live alone can also adopt safer habits from clear and objective information. No one needs to stop taking a shower, but everyone can learn to take a better shower. Some say that all this is an exaggeration, that they have never felt ill when showering early, and that it's an age thing. But the body changes over time, even if the mind remains active. What didn't hurt yesterday may represent a risk today. The mistake is in believing that because it has worked for decades, it will always continue like this. Health is not static. It's a living system, constantly adapting. Resistance to the new often prevents safer habits from being adopted. And when we talk about prevention, it is not necessary to wait for something to happen to change. Just understand that there are gentler and more respectful ways to take care of the body. No one needs to give up their independence for that. On the contrary, it is the adoption of small cares that prolongs this autonomy. Changing the shower from 6 o'clock in the morning to a milder time, for example, may seem like little, but it has a huge effect on the safety and well-being of those over 60. In many family accounts, the tragedy of sudden illness in the shower is accompanied by the same phrase, "He seemed so well." And it's true. Often, there are no visible signs that something is wrong. That's why it's important to anticipate the problem with attitudes that reduce the risks without interfering with the quality of life. If John Miller had waited a little longer, drank water upon waking, and adjusted the shower temperature, perhaps his story would be different. The lack of previous symptoms does not mean that the risk does not exist. That's where the danger lies. That's why the recommendations need to be simple, direct, and applicable. The person needs to know what to do, how to do it, and why. They need to understand that it's not a whim, but something proven. Shi Heng said that wisdom is not only in the great revelations, but in the small gestures of everyday life. There is power in waking up calmly, respecting the rhythm of the body, and making the shower a moment of care, not urgency. This is a choice that requires no money, requires no physical effort, only attention. It's not about abandoning old habits, but about adapting them to the current stage of life. This applies to the shower, to food, to sleep. Everything changes, and those who learn to adapt with lightness tend to live longer and better. When we talk about longevity, many think of expensive medicines, complex exams, or modern treatments. But often, what prolongs life the most are the simple decisions made every day, like the time to get up, what is eaten, how one breathes, and yes, when one takes a shower. These choices build the future, one morning at a time. It is common to underestimate the impact that temperature has on the body, especially at times when the body is still in transition between rest and activity. Upon waking, the nervous system is still resuming its rhythm. The metabolism is slower and the reflexes are less precise. The shock of a hot shower in this state can confuse the body's natural senses, which interpret this stimulus as a threat. This triggers an emergency response, known as the vasovagal reflex, which can lead to a sudden drop in blood pressure, dizziness, fainting, and even cardiac arrest. In a closed, slippery, and isolated bathroom, the chances of immediate help are minimal. That's why the danger is not only in the water or the time, but in the combination of factors that, together, become lethal. Knowledge about this risk is still limited among the elderly population, and this is precisely the point that needs to change urgently. Sharing this information may seem like a simple gesture, but it is a powerful form of protection. Often, seniors feel uninformed or left out by public health campaigns which do not speak clearly about the daily challenges they face. Talking openly about the time of the shower, its risks and safe alternatives is a way to include this public in the decisions that directly affect their lives. More than that, it is a way to strengthen their autonomy through information. It's not about limiting freedoms, but about providing tools so that each person can make better decisions. Sometimes, a change as small as choosing another time of day for the shower can represent the difference between a normal day and an avoidable tragedy. As I reflect on John Miller's tragic story, a chill runs through me. Not just from the loss, but from the realization that such a routine act as showering could harbor such danger. Shi Heng's teachings, with their emphasis on the body's natural rhythms, have opened my eyes to the fragility and wisdom of our physical selves. This exploration has been a personal wake-up call. I've often rushed into my day, hopping into a hot shower moments after waking, oblivious to the stress it might place on my body. John's fate, coupled with Shi Heng's insights, has taught me that health is not just about big choices, but the small, mindful ones we make daily. The idea that a simple shift, waiting 30 minutes, sipping water, using lukewarm water, could be life-saving is both humbling and empowering. This journey has reshaped my understanding of aging. I used to think health risks were tied to obvious threats, like falls or chronic diseases. But now I see how subtle habits can become silent traps. Shi Heng's philosophy, blending science and intuition, resonates deeply. Our bodies are delicate instruments, speaking to us if we listen. I've started paying attention to my own signals, those moments of dizziness or fatigue I once brushed off. And I'm committed to respecting my body's limits. This isn't about fear, it's about reverence for life. I've also begun conversations with my aging parents, gently suggesting they adjust their shower routines. It's a small act of love, inspired by the knowledge that prevention lies in awareness. The broader lesson here is that longevity is built on intention. Shi Heng's words about balance, physical, mental, and emotional, have become a guiding light. I've learned that autonomy doesn't mean stubborn adherence to old habits, but the courage to adapt for well-being. Since reading this, I've shifted my morning routine. I wake slowly, hydrate, and wait before showering. The result? I feel more energized, grounded, and in tune with myself. This small change has ripple effects, reminding me that health is a daily practice, not a destination. I also feel a responsibility to share this knowledge, especially with those over 60 who might not hear it elsewhere. John Miller's story is a stark reminder that life can hinge on moments we take for granted. Yet, it's also a call to action, to live with greater awareness and care. Shi Heng's wisdom teaches us that every choice, no matter how mundane, shapes our future. This reflection has instilled in me a deeper gratitude for my body and a resolve to treat it with respect. It's not about perfection, but progress. Small steps toward a safer, fuller life. If this story moves you, as it has me, let it spark change. Talk to your loved ones, share this message, and commit to one safer habit today. Comment below with your thoughts, like this content, and subscribe to join us in prioritizing health in every moment. Let's honor John's memory by making every morning a conscious step toward longevity and love for life.